Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 26-year-old daughter, Helen, and I always had a good relationship up until a few years ago. She started dating Marco in her final year of college. That same year, her mother and I separated. It was amicable, and we agreed on divorce terms without any disputes. After her graduation in 2021, she and Marco became engaged. I was very happy for her, however, encouraged her to think about a long engagement, given they are both only now entering the workforce. She did say her ideal wedding location was booked out for 3 years, and they intended to save up for it. I told her that I would contribute $20,000 to her wedding. I also purchased her a car for her graduation, however kept the registration in my name. Helen started to become distant, but whenever I asked if everything was okay, she said yes and denied there was any issue. I just hoped everything would return to normal. In April, out of the blue, Helen posted on Facebook to announce that she and Marco had eloped and married at the registrar's office, with her mother and mother-in-law and father-in-law as witnesses. She said that they were planning on using their savings as a house deposit and would have a small gathering at their home in lieu of a reception. I was so shocked and hurt that I found out this way. I would have completely supported this decision had she spoken to me. I called her to ask why I was not invited, and she said it wasn't personal and they just wanted to elope. I finally told her that I've been hurt the last few years with her being more distant, and I missed how close we were. Again, she didn't say much but was very cold and distant. I told her that the $20,000 I had given her was to be used for the wedding, and this is when she lost her temper, saying that if I was ready to part with that money for the wedding, why should she return it now? She would use the $20,000 as part of the house deposit, thought that's what I would have wanted, and hung up on me. She ignored my calls and texts for the next week, apart from her finally responding to my last message with F off. Here's where I may have been the a-hole. After I received that message, I arranged for her vehicle to be towed back to my house. I sent her a text saying she had effectively been phasing me out of her life, clearly doesn't respect me, and I don't like that she feels entitled to take the money I had gifted her under false pretenses. Since then, both her and her mother have been blowing up my phone, calling me every name under the sun, and she has told me she wants nothing more to do with me. I feel that had she told me she wanted to elope and save for a house instead, I would have offered her financial help. However, her entitlement to think she is owed the money, irrespective how she treats me, is what I have an issue with. Where I feel I may have been the a-hole is that I think taking back the car might have just been a petty thing to do to my daughter. I really don't want to give the car back after what she has said to me, but I just need to know if I overreacted or not. Ready to accept my judgment. Wow. Well, I wonder what the reason is for her change, and why did she become distant with OP? Anyway, she clearly doesn't respect him or consider him family, and is not afraid to lose him. Honestly, after all OP has done for his daughter, the fact he found out on Facebook she got married feels deliberate. Worse, she didn't even offer back the $20,000 or ask to use it instead for a down payment. Feels like she doesn't care about OP's feelings at all. To tow the car was a petty thing to do, but she absolutely deserved it. And now let's hear the community's opinion. JRM1102 says, "Not the a-hole. I was ready to call you an a-hole, but you gave her $20,000 for her wedding. She never had a wedding, and now refuses to give back that money. Admittedly, maybe you shouldn't have just handed her a lump sum, but it was clear what it was for. If she is going to take advantage of your generosity, you're allowed to rescind it." Yama says, "Not the a-hole, but they didn't elope. They purposely excluded you. For what reason is anyone's guess. The fact that she had her mother there and her in-laws should tell you that." Stonewall Brigade 21 says, "Not the a-hole. You gave her money specifically for a wedding. When they eloped, she didn't even invite you. In my opinion, that is basically stealing, especially now that she refused to return the wedding money. At least you got the car back." My mother got herself into an MLM scheme last year despite my brother and I warning her against it. She quit her job because the MLM scheme people told her this was her chance to become an entrepreneur and independent. My dad is supporting her financially now and my 4 younger siblings. She pretty much gave up on the oils after selling them to everyone she knows. She still has a lot more left to sell, but she now wants to do something else because she doesn't feel like she's her own boss under this MLM company. She overestimated how many people want to buy her product, and now she's thousands in debt. She won't get a job, and my dad can't afford to pay it off without selling the house and his car. My brother has 3 kids in private school. He doesn't have much money to spare. I'm on maternity leave, and the amount she needs will wipe out my savings, and I'd have to use my husband's money as well to cover this debt, which I don't think is fair. Especially since she doesn't want to get a job after this debt is cleared, because she's an entrepreneur at heart, and working for someone's company is soul-crushing. She wants to open a food truck, even though they aren't popular in the town she lives in, and always go out of business. My mom isn't a bad cook, but she's competing with professional chefs, and I'm sure she'll give up as soon as it gets hard. My dad says he plans to sell the house and his car, and move his tenants out of the apartment he owns. My mom called me crying because she loves her neighborhood, and has lived there for 35 years. She says I'm selfish and evil for not paying her debt, because she'll pay me back when she expands her food truck business. She doesn't understand why I just don't use my husband's money, since we won't notice it's gone. My mom has threatened not to allow me to see my younger siblings, who I'm close with, and to have me exiled by our entire family. Would I be the a-hole if I refused to clear this debt even though I could because my mom's threatening me? OP's mother should go see a lawyer about whether she can be declared bankrupt if her debts are that huge, although that will badly impact any ideas of borrowing in the future. OP's savings are to care for her own family and not her mom. Never lend money you can't afford to lose, and it sounds like OP doesn't have spare money to give her. Bam F1701 says, "Not the a-hole. You said you are in maternity leave. Do not wipe out your savings to bail your mother out. You need that money for your own children. Do not harm your children's future because of your mother's irresponsible actions. She is perfectly capable of getting a job on her own and dealing with the debt on her own. She just doesn't want to. And she is horrible for wanting to harm her grandchildren's future to do so. There is a saying, don't ever loan money to family that you can't afford to lose. Considering your mother's history, you can't believe her promise to pay you back, even if you had a contract signed. She is coming to you for a loan instead of a bank because she cannot repay you without legal consequences. And the fact that she is resorting to emotional manipulation to get you to change your mind shows that she knows that. Basically, your mother is an adult. She needs to grow up and get herself out of this mess." Tits on Bread says, "Not the a-hole. Your mother's actions are not only her own fault and not your responsibility, but her threats are also very aggressive. Also, if you have to clear your savings and then some, you can't afford it. I have a brother who has a similar attitude. I don't want to work a soul-crushing job. I'm an entrepreneur, etc. Let me guess. Your mom also has issue with authority and gives up as soon as anything gets difficult. When things don't pan out, it's never actually her fault, and literally anything and everything else is to blame. I know the type, and trust me, it's never going to stop until you put your foot down. My parents poured over $100K into my brother's failures over the past 10 years, and finally cut him off only a year or so ago. I gave him over $10K in random increments over the past few years, as have multiple of his friends. His ex-boss gave him a $30K loan that he's never going to be able to pay back. He has nothing to show for it. My husband and I have been married for 9 years. In 2021, we found out my husband was being sued for child support. Turns out, my husband had an affair shortly after we were married. It nearly ended our marriage, but we went to counseling together, and I agreed to stay in the marriage with the following provisions. My husband was to get a second job so that his child support payments did not affect our household budget, and that at no point in time would I ever consider a relationship with this child. If he wanted to pursue one with them, fine, but I have absolutely zero interest in this kid. So my husband has been getting to know his kid over the past couple years, and recently my husband came to me and informed me that there was some sort of baby mama drama. Apparently, she has to self-surrender in May and is going to be incarcerated for 8 months. My husband told me that he needed to take custody while his affair partner is locked up. Otherwise, the kid would have to go to their grandparents, who basically live on the opposite coast from us. Their kid doesn't want to have to change schools or be so far away from their friends, dad and mom. She will be doing her time fairly local to us. So after my husband told me that, I got up and left the house. I went to the grocery store on the corner and grabbed a copy of our area's apartment guide, went back home and handed it to him. He asked if I were serious. I told him I still felt the same way as I did 3 years ago. He said he didn't think that was fair, considering the extenuating circumstances. I told him I didn't care about the circumstances. His kid is not welcome in my home. If he wanted to take custody, I will grant him an amicable divorce, but I am not changing my mind. I'm not taking care of some other chick's kid. Well, this is the result of OP staying with him after the affair. I feel sorry for the child because she is not guilty here, but I understand OP, and it's not her responsibility to take care of her husband's affair child. She also set clear conditions for her to forgive him and not divorce. So yeah, she has a right to say no to his request. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Major Distance says, this marriage should have ended years ago. Effective Help says, why are you still with him? In no way do I think it's your responsibility to raise this child, but it is his responsibility, and this poor kid didn't ask for any of it. The whole situation would be happier and healthier if y'all just split up. Kazbaha says, this poor kid. I hope dad steps up and is there for them. OP, this isn't what you wanted for your life and relationship, and that's 100% fair. You and your husband are on different paths. This is his responsibility, and I think it's reasonable you asked him to move out and take care of his responsibilities alone. I don't think your marriage is going to work out. My biological mother didn't raise me. She let my dad raise me for the first 2 years on his own, and then he passed away, and my maternal grandparents took custody of me like my dad wanted, and my grandparents became my parents, but raised me to know about the loving dad I had. My grandparents were amazing, and I feel lucky that they also loved my dad and respected him enough, despite him not being their son, to make sure I did grow up knowing that he wanted me, even though their daughter, my biological mother, didn't. I lost both my grandparents in the last 4 years. Grandpa died 4 years ago when I, 21 male, was 17, and Grandma died 8 months ago. I inherited the most from my grandparents. My aunts and uncles all inherited a small portion of their estate. My biological mother got the smallest amount they could get away with giving her, which was like $5. But I got the family home because I still lived here with Grandma, and I got a sizable amount of money. After my grandparents died, my aunts and uncles got closer to my biological mother again, and they became a family again and met her husband and kids. I wasn't a part of that. I have zero desire to know this woman or her family. She was never my mom. Nothing will change that. A couple of months ago, she reached out and told me she and her family were struggling and asked for money. I ignored her and asked my aunts and uncles how she found me, and they admitted they passed my info along. I told them I didn't like that. They said she's family whether I like it or not, and at least I should be interested in helping her kids because they're my siblings. She asked for money again after that, but I still didn't reply. Then last week, she contacted me again and said they needed a place to stay and she and her kids really needed my help. I asked her why I would help her and her kids when they're nothing but strangers to me. I told her to stop expecting me to take care of her. She called me names. Then she told my aunts and uncles, and they went crazy on me. They said she's still my mom, and I said she was a biological mother, a birth mother, but not a mom where it concerned me. They told me she was still my mom, and her kids were my siblings, and I should be there for them, if not for her. They told me I shouldn't be a monster to them when I could help them. I told them if they wanted a relationship, they could help her. They told me my question was meant to be nasty and nothing else. I was also told she was young when she had me, and I should understand better. She was 25. She wasn't a teenager. Am I the a-hole? Golden Fingernail says, not the a-hole. Ugh! I absolutely hate it when people play the their family card, and you're expected to forgive all their transgressions because of it. I will say that your siblings are innocent of any of this, but your mom is a real piece of work, and she's getting all of her siblings, I'm assuming your aunts and uncles are her siblings, to pile on you and guilt you. She made her choices. Her choices put her in an uncomfortable position. This is not on you to bail her out. You are correct. They can help her with the inheritance they got from their mom. This isn't on you, OP. Swedish Punch says, your mother was expecting an inheritance and didn't get one. This is what she is after, OP. Don't give her a penny. Check all of your accounts, credit cards, and credit rating, OP. When you don't give in, she may decide to help herself to your funds. You might even want to freeze your credit, not the a-hole. Reasonable Bad 769 says, not the a-hole. You'll notice the aunts and uncles didn't pull this crap when your grandparents were alive. Your grandparents left you the house and funds for a reason. That should be respected. I'd block your bio mom and any relative that continues to disrespect you and your grandparents. So, when I was 15, I got my then girlfriend pregnant. When I told my parents, I didn't know what their reaction would be. It was worse than I thought. They just kicked me out, called me irresponsible and stupid, and told me they were ashamed to have me as their son. I packed a few bags and called around. I ended up living with my Aunt B, my sweet aunt who at the time was a widow and newly empty nest. She took me in with loving arms. Fast forward, my then girlfriend had our baby girl. For the first 2 months, I would spend most of my time at my girlfriend's house to help care for our baby. One night, my girlfriend came over saying she couldn't do this anymore and that she wasn't meant to be a mom and I could have it if I wanted to, but she's done. She quickly became my ex-girlfriend and I decided I would raise my daughter on my own. It helps I had amazing support from my aunts and cousins. I was able to finish school and get a great job. Fast forward to yesterday. I'm now 29 with a 13-year-old daughter. We live 2 hours away from where I grew up in a condo perfect for just my daughter and I. Very content with my life. My daughter had a soccer tournament a little over 2 hours away, very close to where I grew up. While waiting for my daughter's next game, I had gone to the car to just sit in the AC and away from the sun for a bit while my daughter was hanging out with her teammates. All of a sudden, someone called my name. I looked around and saw my parents. I was in shock, to say the least. They asked what I was doing. I said, well, after you kicked me out, I had a daughter who's 13 now. I'm here for her. Then I asked, what are they doing? I have a niece who is 11 and also plays soccer at this sports complex. They then apologized, saying they know that they overreacted and would love to get to know me again and meet their granddaughter. I was still in shock seeing them and told them I'd think about it and asked for my mom's number so I could contact her if I decided to let them meet my daughter. I just have no idea what to do. I don't want them to cause mental harm to my baby, the same way they did to me. Astra Not My Problem says, any decision you make should be for yourself and your daughter. You don't owe them a thing. If you do decide you want to consider rebuilding this bridge, I'd recommend going step by step and doing so by yourself before you involve your daughter. People can change in 13 years, but it's certainly not guaranteed. Honestly, considering how old your daughter is, you might just have an honest conversation with her. It's possible she's not even interested, and it would be good for her to know the truth about your parents. I wouldn't leave the decision in her court. That's way too much pressure. But involving her can help her gain a sense of control in a situation where she doesn't have much. And it might give you closure and bring you both closer, regardless of your decision. Fully Adjustable Funk says, that's one of those things I'd consider unforgivable. I'm a parent, and I don't care what my kids did. They'll always have me in their corner. Your parents are garbage people. Who tosses a 15-year-old kid out on the streets? Tell them to pound sand and move on with your life. Puppet007 says, they had 13 years to apologize to you. They only did it after seeing how well you did for yourself.